My name is Celia Green, and this is the video reflection on the family role play done last week on structural family therapy. During this role play, I presented the class with a family that consisted of a mom and dad who were divorced, a maternal grandmother who stepped in often with the children, and I presented them with three children, ages 7, 9, and 15, that were being referred, the family themselves were being referred to this family agency as a result of the children being consistently absent from school, and the school not being able to be in contact with the mother. The mother was presenting with different disorders such as bipolar and depression, and these disorders were preventing her from actually fulfilling her role as a mom. There was changing the dynamics within the household where the oldest daughter, age 15, was having to take on some of the motherly duties and help the children, and this was coming in this was creating more of a conflict for the daughter, who no longer wanted to be in the home, the grandmother, who was constantly being called off the job because the children were not showing up at school or there was some type of crisis. Mom wasn't coming out of the room for days and at a time. Dad, being out of the home now, was working more and was not able to assist with the needs that the children may have presented during different times or different situations, and also he wasn't being contacted. So the original family pattern or structure of the family was imbalanced and was chaotic, and so it was causing the family a lot of friction. So during my presentation, I presented some of the major tenets of structural family therapy, such as that families are organizations and they have structural patterns, and these patterns need to be in balance where these roles are all working together to support the best needs of all members of the family. Um, Also, I addressed different symptoms that were presenting that was reflecting the stress the family was going through at the time. There was also boundaries, alignment, and power that I addressed during my role play, and also active involvement of the family members in alternate behaviors. I tried to do a reenactment as a form of intervention to try to allow the family members, after they heard from one another, after they understood each other's positions, to try to allow them to create a new pattern that would best assist their family in moving forward and being productive. Um, and so also I used the therapeutic assessment. I did an intake, initial intake, and then I constantly assessed during the process. Also, by doing the reenactment, I was using a different intervention and allowing the family members to switch roles. One of the things that we talked about doing as a family moving forward was for Dad to step in more and for him to take the kids to school instead of Mom just taking the kids to school. And having all that pressure on her, which Mom expressed during the session that she felt helpless and also felt kind of condemned and shamed for her disorder. The maternal grandmother and the mom, they did not get along well. The maternal grandmother was kind of burnt out from having to be like the rescuer or the savior in the family, and so we called on Dad to kind of step in a little more, but also for the grandma to kind of step back some, to allow Mom the space to grow and to do whatever she needed to do in order to get herself together enough to take care of her children. So Mom seemed to possess a lot of strengths, and so we talked about, I definitely came from a strength-based perspective and trying to remind the family of the strengths that they have, because they all came to the session and they all were willing to actually talk about the problems within their family. Christian, the youngest, the middle son, he was having behavior issues at school, which was also an additional reason they were referred to the agency. We allowed Christian to speak, also validating his feelings. but also all children were allowed to speak during this process. So I believe that was culturally responsive because in their family system, the children actually were doing a lot on their own, and so their opinions of the situation was really important. Um, and the oldest daughter expressed her frustration with having to be in charge, where the middle son, Christian, also expressed his frustration with his dad not being there, and that was some of his behavioral issues at school, and that was some of his issues at home, not really wanting to go to school. Dallas, the youngest son, 7, also expressed not wanting to go to school because the mom, he felt they needed to take care of mom more. Mom resented this feeling from the children and didn't want to be looked at as incompetent as a mom. She just wanted help. Mom also expressed that she was not taking her medication as a result of the medication's side effects, where it was making her a little sleepy and enabling her to continually miss her role as a mom and not be able to be present with her children in the mornings and just in their daily routines. Um, Also culturally responsive because in African American families, a lot of time mental health is not taken as seriously. Um, Sometimes it's not even addressed, whereas in this family, mental health was addressed. So we did talk about it in context where the children knew mom had some type of mental illness and they were aware of some of the side effects, some of the circumstances that had happened in the past. Um, Also, it was interesting to get the grandmother's perspective during this time, as she talked about how her frustrations, but also gave kind of more information about the mom's condition kind of over time. So she kind of put it in context where she felt that even if we did set up a new systems or we did set up some type of intervention, that mom would kind of get back into the same pattern because that's kind of the nature of the illness, where she may be able to do it today but may not be able to perform her roles tomorrow. So again, we talked about switching those roles up some, where mom could feel empowered and dad could feel needed more. Because I think what we find out through the conversation with the family is that dad being outside of the home put definitely more strain on mom to get things together, but also dad wasn't being contacted as previously mentioned. When there was an emergency, the school wasn't able to reach him, but that also has to do with dad's work schedule, as he works constantly and has not been able to be as available for the children. So that was something that has happened. Also, in the professional therapeutic style for working with families, I acted more as an activist, more of a stage director, especially during the intervention stage where we were doing the reenactment. We brought up different scenarios of what it would be like with mom in the mornings if mom was kind of having one of those days where she was feeling depressed and she really couldn't get up and couldn't get rolling and things like that. Mom expressed that a lot of times she would attempt to do things but felt completely powerless. So we tried to reenact a scenario where the 15-year-old would find out, that mom needed some assistance, and then maybe would contact the father instead this time, instead of kind of relying on the grandmother to get off work and kind of putting the stress and strain there. Also with mom herself, allowing her to know that she was strong enough to do this and that she also could reach out to the father. He also expressed his concern and that he was willing to help and shift things around as needed. One of the things that we also addressed was the family's belief system, because the family has believed that mom's illness is the end all be all, as far as there wasn't going to be any change in the context of their family and like what would take place. They believed that mom, this was going to always be the same, and that since the divorce that things, were definitely different, and that, maybe the father didn't love them as much and he didn't want to be as involved. The grandmother definitely, as previously mentioned, has no expectations for mom to succeed in this process. Also, she doubts that the father will actually do things on his end. So the family definitely is having some things going on there where Dallas believes that he needs to take care of mom. Christian believes he needs to take care of mom. And that, dad is leaving and now sister's leaving. And, there were a lot of different things going on there. Also, I don't believe the family's clear on how the mom's mental illness works. And maybe there should be a little more psychoeducation about how mom actually may be feeling during those times and what she maybe is actually able to do during those times. I feel like that would be beneficial for the entire family. Also reinforcing some of their supporting protective factors. Also thinking about like how their cohesion was within the family. So there was definitely an alliance between the grandmother and the oldest and the daughter. She wanted to live with the grandmother, so that was, kind of tough, kind of maneuvering that. But also Dallas and Christian were siding with the mom, and Dad was kind of left in limbo trying to mend broken relationships, which is something that seems like it needs more focus on. So in the next session, hoping to get to that. Some of the body language and listening skills, I definitely practice active listening, and I tried to have as much eye contact as I could. However, I felt that the family was large, and Christian also during the session was having some kind of behavioral issues that came up. Just maybe some of his emotional outbursts. He was definitely kind of distracting the session a little, and so I did find it hard to constantly provide eye contact with every person, but I did try to give space and room for each person to speak and to be attentive, especially in body language. Definitely tried to manage conflict. Christian was, was having some issues with Dad, and he was kind of having some issues just with mom, and also with the sister, and just kind of figuring out where he fit in and everything. Some of the ethical challenges, there weren't many. But I think if this is concerning all social workers when they might work with families, one of the things I found that could be challenging was confidentiality, especially if you're working with like third parties. So you're working maybe with the school system or the doctor's office or something else, maybe trying to make sure that the family's information is constantly protected, and also when talking about the children and just different things like that, and just kind of being mindful of those. That seems like that could be a challenge. The cultural competence to me is an ethical challenge, just because each family presents with different cultures that they, maybe several cultures that they ascribe to, and I believe that it's really important to have the humility when going in. Just because you're working with a particular family, you may have worked with a family similar to them before, but each family has different subcultures they also ascribe to, and I think it's important to take time to learn those. Let's see, some of my feedback from my peers, mostly all positive. Everyone was saying to pause. I did ask questions about how maybe I should handle things with Christian during session, if I should have took time away from session, and kind of stopped and spoke with him privately. Dr. Washington gave feedback stating that, the parents should be allowed to parent during the session, so that I shouldn't step in and interrupt that. And also, I should be assessing this behavior and how the family is responding to the behavior during this process. Bias issues that could impact my practice, and ways to address them in the future. Biases toward a certain group of people, mental illness, and just kind of how, like, most people view mental illness in a certain way. And it's very important for me that I need to make sure that I'm not having any biases. And if so, if I do realize them, process them as I'm doing this recording, just kind of seeing what things I can do to improve and be more competent in that area. I already addressed having cultural humility, but I think constantly being educated and constantly presenting that humility is really important. With that being said, I feel like I did a great role play overall. I was extremely nervous, but I felt that the class could understand the major tenets of this, and understanding that organizational patterns of families is very important, and it's very important if we can allow those families to maybe switch roles in order to be best productive. Thank you.